think that's a silver lining, if you will, that our whole area is really just prepared and ready to jump into action whenever that may be, you know, to make sure our citizens are safe. And I'm sure DIMCO, especially patience, as always, he mentioned there is kind of a lag in between responding to those outages, especially when that storm really starts to make its way to our area. You should expect a little bit of a delay before they're able to get to each home, just because of safety reasons. You know, it's something to keep in mind. They are heading out into the storm and going up pretty high with those high winds. And Kevin mentioned when you're up higher, those winds are stronger than what we're feeling down on the ground.
Patience is a key word this weekend. Today, this morning, into this afternoon, tonight, into tomorrow. Just know that if you do experience these adverse conditions, help will be on the way, one way or the other. Your power will eventually be restored, or people will come to search and rescue you if you are trapped in an area that has high water. Now, I believe we will soon go down to the New Orleans area. I believe we're going to do that now. We're checking in on team coverage down there. The latest from near the coast. What have y'all experienced so far down there in the New Orleans area? Good morning.
Well, you know what? We have had some pretty strong winds. A couple of strong rain bands have moved through. But overall, the weather, of course, not quite as bad as what you folks in Baton Rouge and areas south of you are seeing at this point. Highest wind gusts so far here in the New Orleans area, running about 50 miles per hour. But believe it or not, over the past 24 hours, there's been less than an inch of rain recorded at the New Orleans airport. That's a far cry from the 8 inches that they saw here just a few days ago on Wednesday. Over a 3-hour period, 3 to 4 feet of water flooded many streets in the city. But the Army Corps of Engineers says those pumps continue to operate. 117 out of 120 of those pumps will be operational for the foreseeable future to ensure that at least the risk of flooding is minimal. Now, you're looking live at the Mississippi River. That has been a concern. The storm surge has been about 1 foot, and it's especially noticeable at the time of high tide. But the good news is here in New Orleans is that the River Forecast Center has reduced the crest. The crest was originally supposed to be 19 feet. However, now the crest is expected to be just over 17 feet. The levees that we're on right now are a little over 20 feet. So what it does appear at this point is folks in the New Orleans area have a little bit less to worry about as far as the Mississippi River is concerned. However, if the 8 to 10 inch rainfall forecast materializes later today through tomorrow, we could see a situation where the city's pumps, which can only handle 1 inch per hour, get overwhelmed. A lot of folks are being patient. In fact, I heard you mention that patience is a key word. Here in the New Orleans Area Emergency Management Agency says patience and vigilance are the 2 key words, although things have been pretty quiet as far as heavy rainfall and strong winds are concerned. That could change very soon as those areas of stronger rain bands begin moving inland through southern Louisiana into the New Orleans area. We're hoping for the best, but prepared for the worst. Live here in New Orleans, I'm meteorologist Keith Monahan. Back to you.
Keith Monahan, thank you so much. If you could stay with us for just another minute. You've been out there for quite some time this morning. Have you seen any New Orleans residents try to peek out there? A lot of, inquisitive minds. They want to see how bad it's going to get, or where's the rain, when's it finally going to show up, and a lot of tourists in the Big Easy right now. Have you seen people trying to make their way to the river stages, to the river platforms to see what's going on?
Well, actually, New Orleans has been eerily quiet since the city officials asked folks to shelter in place yesterday at 8 p.m. We've not seen a whole lot of folks. Now, some of the old-timers have come out because they know they've been through worse. However, overall, I think people are resigned to the fact that they're going to have to stay put for a while. They know it's not going to be a Katrina-like situation. They're worried, but they're not panicking. A few folks will still continue, I'm sure, to make their way over here to the river to check things out. But since they have reduced that crest well below the tops of the levees, I'm sure a lot of folks breathing a sigh of relief. Back to you.
All right, Keith, thank you very much. Stay safe out there, down there in New Orleans. We're going to check in now with meteorologist Kevin Smith, continuing to track this storm. Kevin, we keep saying it, it's kind of a wait and see. Many people are on I don't know if on edge is the right term, but we're kind of ready, like you said, to rip the Band-Aid off and see what's going to happen, what's going to come with this storm.
We know these heavy winds are already coming our way, Kevin, and the rain is eventually going to follow suit.
That's right. This storm is taking its sweet time. The winds, though, Chad and Carly and everyone, still holding in at 70 miles per hour. That was the last status of 7 a.m. We're expecting another status update here in about another hour or so. Moving to the northwest around 5 miles per hour. You see the ragged movement of this storm moves off toward the west, into the northwest, and toward the west, now to the northwest. And you also see that the heavy rain bands are still off toward the south of us. That's the bulk of the precipitation that will be moving across our area later this morning into the afternoon into your Sunday. And then across the eastern portions where we're finding some severe weather in the form of some squall line, actually some squally activity. And we see that we have some video just in here. This is the Mobile Bay area. And there you go, wind gusts in excess of 50 and 60 miles per hour. Now that band, at least the bands that have been moving across the Mobile Bay area, were supposed to be the bands that are supposed to be moving across the Baton Rouge area this morning, but apparently due to the dry air that's been filtering in this storm system, it's keeping all of that at bay for now. But we still know on the perspective, at least on the Doppler, in the last 18 hours, there is a moderate activity that's off toward the south of us, and this will be the copious amounts of rain that will be moving through as we travel during the next 24 to 48 hours. And once again, there's that band, another band that's called Training, moving over the same area down into the Mobile Bay area. And you see that this system, at least on the northern side of it and the northwestern side of it, not that much happening because of that dry air is cutting off the supply. All the rainfall now is from about the southwest, southern, and into the northeastern quadrants of this storm system. So take note of that. Tropical storm warning continues, and you saw the sky cam there bouncing up and down because our wind speeds here in Baton Rouge are averaging between around 25 to 35 miles per hour with some higher gusts of around 45 and 50. Even reports of some trees down, and that's really going to be the case. And you see there the sky cam is bouncing up and down, and you see the trees are also moving up and down. It's one of those situations where if you don't have to travel this morning, don't get out on the roadways. And we really see that on the DOTD cam. This is at the I-10 and 12 split. And you see how the trees are moving there in the distance. And one of those things, too, you can get those winds we call moving across the highway, and they can, at least one of those gusts of wind, they can knock you off the highway, especially when you get on those bridges and overpasses. So be aware of that. Once again, the higher you go, those winds will multiply. So be advised of that, so therefore stay home. Flash flood watch continues as well through about Sunday morning, even though we're not experiencing any significant rainfall as of yet. As we saw on the radar, it's still off toward the south of us, and we'll be moving through later this morning and afternoon. So here we go with the latest status. Winds are at 70 with some gusts of 75. Is moving to the northwest, 5 miles per hour. That pressure, 991 millibars, and we still see it moving onshore. Still later this morning, it's like just creeping along to Vermilion Bay, just taking its sweet time. Finally, we'll be moving through. But no matter what, as soon as that, at least the center of circulation moves onshore, you really won't feel the effects of just with the effects of storm surge, and we've already received that down along LA1. Already the water is over the highway, and also the wind is really the factor here. It's going to be that rain that's going to be coming in later that we'll start to see the effects of this, as well as the low pressure next to the tropical storm will be over Lafayette around about 1 p.m. Then Alexandria as we travel into the overnight, and then up toward portions of Arkansas and to later on Sunday and the Monday. So the futurecast still indicating the storm system about right here, moving toward the west-southwest, give or take about 20 or 30 miles. And then on the tropical tracker, the Euro model indicating the same, with those heavy bands still moving across the Baton Rouge metro. That hasn't changed all that much. Also, that threat, we've talked about this, isolated tornadoes, not that much is happening as of yet, but as that significant band into the Gulf moves into across the Baton Rouge area later today, we'll start to see that threat picking up. Make sure you have your supplies ready just in case. So the futurecast indicating those showers and storms picking up right around those bands, moving in a counterclockwise fashion. So they'll be on and off. Some of this, as I said, will be heavy at times. And once you get those bands moving in, it's going to become what we call squally, very breezy, and some gusty winds with that. And that will continue to be the case all the way into around Monday. And then finally, the storm system will start to kick out of here. So the next 12 hours, temperatures holding steadily into the upper 70s to around the lower 80s. So temperatures really not moving all that much because of the cloud cover as well as the rainfall across our area. So once again, the heavy rainfall threat will be with us across the entire Baton Rouge vicinity. So here we go with the 7-day forecast. Weather aware day is in effect for today and tomorrow with the rain chances 90 to 100% today, tapering off to around 80 to 90% on your Sunday, and then 50% on Monday. Temperatures are slowly sliding up to around 89 as we move into your Tuesday at 40%. And then we're back to 30% rain chances for your, at least your Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Those temperatures still into the lower 90s. Overnight lows will start to drop into the lower to the mid-70s. I would advise everyone, once again, the winds are up across the entire metro area, as well as the reports of the winds not only here, but you saw at least the view of what's happening down live view into the New Orleans area of the high winds, where they've seen some wind gusts this morning around 50 and 60, even 70 miles per hour to the south of that, down toward Grand Isle. We have reports now, this is coming in from one of our media partners, of the Coast Guard has just rescued about 12 people and a cat from rising waters. Now this happened down in Houma, Louisiana. They're now at a shelter. So indeed, Chad and Carly, everything is happening in place of all of this weather that's taking place with this tropical storm. But as I showed you earlier, the dry air is indeed moving in with this storm system, and it's really just tearing this storm system apart, at least on the northern and northwestern sides of it. And even you see there on the satellite radar composite how the western side of the storm system is starting to dissipate, and the eastern side and southern side is really taking over. You see on that last scan, even on this satellite perspective, you can see that very ragged on this northern side and also the northwestern side, but the southern side and southeastern side looks pretty healthy, and that's why we're dealing with at least the pressure that has dropped down to 991 millibars, and you see the dry air circulating as you make your way toward the coastal region of Florida. But then again, this is where the thunderstorms are blowing up that's currently moving across the Mobile Bay area, and all this red, that's some heavy rainfall that is occurring into the central Gulf. And as we pointed out earlier, this is a very large area, about 400 to 500 miles from north to south, and indeed that eventually will start to work in across our area, and that's why we're going to be dealing with that heavy rainfall threat extending not only to the Baton Rouge area, but eventually this whole storm system will move across the entire state, engulfing it. Therefore, expect heavy rainfall not only here in Baton Rouge, but Shreveport, Monroe, Alexandria, extending all the way, of course, now to our area down toward New Orleans. So everyone, get ready for that heavy rainfall event. If you don't have to get out on the roads, Chad and Carly, once again, just stay home, because I'm hearing now that a lot of restaurants are just closed, so you can't go anywhere. So just continue to stay home and watch us on air. There you go.
Play safe, Kevin, that's for sure.
Yeah,
and you mentioned that Coast Guard rescue from this morning. A few
Right.
details coming into our newsroom. Pretty interesting. It happened pretty early down at South Island and Terrebonne Parish. It's Island Road. Around 4:30 this morning, the Coast Guard was able to evacuate 12 people in distress due to flooding. They actually had to deploy a small response boat crew, as well as a Dolphin helicopter air crew. All the people were deployed or were lifted to safety, as well as their cat. Which is good to know.
Don't
that,
leave
look,
the pets.
seriously, on a serious note, take care of your pets. You know, don't overlook them and their needs during this time of distress, because, you know, eventually some people will experience these flood waters that will come into your home, into your complexes where you live, and you'll need some help. They do anticipate having some search and rescue crews throughout the greater Baton Rouge area, along the Comeet River, along the Amite River later today, as those heavy bands eventually come in. So we still continue to wait out the storm as Tropical Storm Barry slowly, methodically approaches South Louisiana and eventually makes its way inland. Some road closures down there in St. Mary Parish, down in Morgan City. Some other reports of some high water in Plaquemines Parish down south as well. But for now, approaching the 9:30 mark, still relatively dry here in our viewing area in greater Baton Rouge.
Yeah, we just checked in, got a look out in New Orleans. Now we're going to check in with Dalford Jones. He is live this morning in Morgan City. Dalford, good morning. What's it looking like out there this morning?
Hey, good morning, Carly. Good to hear your voice, old friend. Well, as you guys said, Barry is taking his time, making his way to make landfall here in Louisiana. But here in Morgan City, in St. Mary Parish, we're seeing some of those tropical storm force winds. Right now at about 45 miles an hour. Rain is very sporadic. Not much of what we're seeing now. This is what we've seen most of the morning. But we have seen power outages throughout the parish. At last report, the St. Mary Parish Office of Emergency Preparedness is reporting 5,600 people across the parish without power. Emergency crews have been grounded, so they're doing some work on the ground because the winds are too strong at the moment to send them up in those bucket trucks to start and repair some of those lines. But the mayor of Morgan City, Frank Grozaffi, he just left here moments ago. He told us they're dealing with 7 downed utility poles. Their emergency crews are doing what they can to repair items, as I said, on the ground level before they can send them up and repair those power lines. You can see here the area just outside of Lawrence Park, which is the scene behind us. There's some debris on the ground, some small branches, nothing too large at the moment. Like I said, winds at about 45 miles per hour right now, but we're continuing to monitor Barry as he approaches landfall, as you guys said, methodically, very slowly, working his way in, but we're still feeling some of the effects of Barry. We'll continue to keep you guys updated.
Dalfred, before you go, are y'all seeing any flooding down there? I know Morgan City was kind of one of those areas that they were really concerned about before Tropical Storm Barry made its way in. Any flooding issues, or are y'all just mainly dealing with wind, kind of like we are here in Baton Rouge?
I think every Morgan City resident will consider themselves to be very blessed. No flooding at the moment. We were expecting about 15 inches of rain, but as of now, we haven't seen much. Very light drizzle throughout the morning. It's almost 10 o'clock now. Not much. We're still expecting a few inches of rain, but as of now, haven't seen any.
Hey, Dalfred, if you could, walk us through your morning so far. Did y'all begin at your base operation in Lafayette, or where have y'all been so far this morning?
Well, we came into Morgan City Friday night, so we've been here since about roughly 8 o'clock Friday night. When we got into town, city was pitch black. We checked into our hotel by paper, signed everything the old-fashioned way with a pen. So I got to work my cursive a little bit. And when we woke up this morning, my alarm went off at 3:45. We were preparing for our morning show. The lights went out immediately. So we got dressed and shaved in the dark, minus the light from our cell phones. The power has been out for most of the day. It's trickling on and off at the moment. It was on a couple minutes ago, but I see these lights in the building behind us are off once again. So about 30% of the city of Morgan City is without power, but as we said, the mayor said his crews are on the ground working to get some work done before they can send those guys back up in those bucket trucks.
And before those heavy bands continue to make their way inland and towards South Louisiana, are residents staying safe, Dalfred? Have you seen not many people out there on the roadways or just kind of venturing out and about on this Saturday morning? Are they heeding the advice of city and state leaders at this point?
Well, as you see, there's one sightseer. You know, as I heard you say earlier, it's inquisitive minds. People want to see what's happening out here. Again, they're being encouraged to stay indoors, shelter in place, as we've heard the governor say since Monday or Tuesday. We're asking people to stay inside. There are a few shelters in place in St. Mary Parish that we're told they're not exactly not full, not many people. A lot of people are staying in homes. Not strangers to hurricanes and tropical storms in this area, so a lot of people are waiting them out at home, but we haven't seen many people on the ground checking things out. There was a curfew until 6 o'clock this morning, but since then, I could probably count the cars I've seen on 2 hands.
It sounds like
Never
everyone's, yeah, at least trying to follow the rules and be safe this morning. Dalfred, thank you so much. You stay safe out there this morning.
All right, Dalfred Jones reporting live in Morgan City, which has experienced a lot of those power outages this morning, those strong winds causing quite some damage and knocking down some power lines. And of course, these heavy rain bands, we caught a bit of a break early this morning. Most of that heavy, severe activity pushed to the east that Kevin would describe as, you know, a bit of good luck here on this Saturday morning as Tropical Storm Barry approaches Louisiana, continues to make its impact felt. But a lot of the Mississippi, Biloxi, Mobile, Alabama area really taking the brunt of those severe storms and thunderstorms and lightning storms a bit this morning. But of course, that heavy rain is still projected to hit our viewing area this afternoon.
That's right. We're kind of making our rounds around the area surrounding the capital city. We're going to check in now with Courtney Williams. She's live this morning in Denham Springs. I believe you're at a shelter this morning. Courtney, what's going on out there?
Hey, Carly and Chad. Yes, I'm here at South Walker Baptist Church, which is just one of the shelters, one of the active shelters for anyone who needs to seek shelter once the storm hits. Now, I would talk to Landry, who's one of the church members. He says the shelter has been open since 6 o'clock last night. There's actually a few people inside, but they're actually sleeping, so that's why I'm standing here outside talking with you guys right now. He said they don't have blankets, towels, or toiletries, but they do have food and cots for anyone who needs to seek shelter. Now, they said the maximum hold they can have in the church is 75. He said they're not sure how many people to expect at this time. Of course, this area is prone to flooding, so they're kind of just waiting around like we've been doing all morning, kind of just see what Barry brings in and the impact it will have in Denham and Livingston Parish.
All right, Courtney, thank you. You mentioned you weren't inside because some people were in there sleeping, so I take it that there are people utilizing this shelter there in Denham Springs.
Yeah, absolutely. They, I believe later said they've been here since yesterday. So people definitely are getting ahead of the storm and just taking those necessary precautions just to make sure they're safe and won't have to be rescued actually during the storm.
Courtney, obviously our signal is strong with you right now in the Denham Springs area. Has communication been okay for you all so far through cell phone, through devices, being able to effectively communicate with people at this hour?
Yeah, absolutely. Everything has been good with cell phone signals. We haven't had any problems out here while we've been kind of just communicating with officials and things like that. I'm actually with AT&T, so they actually sent out that text messages of free text talking data. So I'll say everything's good on my end.
Free text talking data, there you go.
Definitely to be in a better spot than the absolute worst case scenario. So I think a lot of viewers with us right now this morning are kind of waking up and trying to piece together the rest of their game plan. But Courtney, we know that those winds can pick up in a hurry, and you've seen it kind of high and low and coming right back to you this morning. It's kind of been a little bit of a roller coaster morning without the heavy rains so far.
Yeah, this wind has been up and down like a roller coaster, like you mentioned, Chad. Like we just a few moments ago had a huge gust of wind come through, so it's been like that all morning. So I'm not sure what to expect when Barry actually gets to the area.
All right, Courtney, thank you. And real quick, if people are just joining us, there is a shelter open there in Denham Springs. They also have those sandbags locations. Can you run us through that one more time if people are just joining us?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm here at South Walker Baptist Church that's located on Hammock Road here in Denham Springs. They can hold up to 75 people. There are actually only 2 people here so far, but they are certainly expecting a crowd as Livingston Parish is prone to flooding. Again, that is South Walker Baptist Church that's here on 13719 Hammock Road, and there still are 2 sandbag locations that people can go to get those sandbags ahead of the storm. Those are located at 930 Government Drive, which is right across from the old Denham Springs City Hall. You can also go to East Railroad Avenue behind James Drugstore and definitely get those sandbags. There were people out all morning just filling those sandbags and getting them ready for Tropical Storm Barry.
All right, Courtney Williams, thank you so much, reporting live in Livingston Parish. We'll check back in with you a bit later. We're also keeping an eye on Ascension Parish. Reported power outages in the hundreds down in the city of Donaldsonville. Ascension Parish officials and emergency crews will update us with a news conference around 10 o'clock, so we will plan to take that live in just under 30 minutes. But for now, let's check back in with Storm Tracker team meteorologist Kevin Smith, who continues to follow Tropical Storm Barry, which is just very slowly churning out there in the Gulf. Kevin, at what point do you think it officially makes landfall now here in Louisiana?
Well, the way it's going, Chad and Carly, it's going to take a sweet time. I give it another couple of hours. The way it's going, it's taking its time. It's like it's creeping along. It's actually in Vermilion Bay, about right here and it was started out about right here, and it finally entered Vermilion Bay from the Gulf, and it's just traveling right along into the bay. It's only moving at 5 miles per hour, so it's traveling. It's moving to the west, northwest, more of a jaunt to the northwest. It's moving over the entire bay, so it probably would take it 2 more hours before it makes its complete voyage across the bay and finally on shore as it makes its way to the south of the Lafayette area. But you still see the heaviest rainfall now moving onshore back down toward the south of us, and this will start to creep in toward the Baton Rouge area within the next 2 to 3 hours, and the heaviest amounts are still off toward the east, extending down toward the southeast. That's where you find the severe bands that are now producing a lot of cloud to cloud and of course cloud to ground lightning strikes with that, and that will continue to be the case at least for now. Meanwhile, we have a little bit of a photo to show everyone. This is down in Grand Isle, and take a look at this. This is the wind gusts that have happened there, causing the power lines, the utility poles, to lean to the one side, and this is right along LA1. So indeed, a little bit of a situation has happened down there where they're starting to see some wind gusts, just around 70 miles per hour, causing some power outages. That's why they have no power in the entire island down there, so be advised, those folks. But once again, back to the Doppler, showing those shower and thunderstorm activity, especially the moderate rainfall that'll be pushing across the area during the next few hours. And once again, as well, we're going to broaden that out, and you still see more activity extending beyond our radar scope, and that's well into the Gulf of Mexico. And that's why we're going to be dealing with what we call a heavy rainfall event that will be with us throughout your Sunday, and some of that lingering into Monday. And with that in mind, of course, we're under a flash flood watch. We're expecting still between 5 to 10 inches of rainfall. Some localized areas up to 5 to 17 inches of rainfall. And of course, the Amy, Comey, as well as the Tangipahoa, and at least the Tickfaw rivers, be advised, you're still under a major flood threat that will be traveling into later on to Sunday, Monday, into Tuesday as well. So the sustained winds are still holding in at 70 miles per hour with some gusts of 75. The movement to the northwest, there you go, creeping along at 5 miles per hour. And that pressure still at 991 millibars. We're expecting another update that's going to be happening here in about another 20 to 30 minutes, but still holding this tropical storm strength because right now it's just miles away from making landfall there in Vermilion Bay, taking a sweet time. And then later this afternoon, and to at least to the Lafayette area, still close enough, we'll start to see those tropical storm force winds here in the Baton Rouge area. That's why we've been experiencing a lot of power outages across the area. And you saw the map from DEMCO as well as Entergy, almost about 60,000 people or so, and statewide that are now without power. Especially you saw the video, at least of the image that's happening down in Grand Isle. And then the storm system moving up toward Alexandria and then into Arkansas as we travel into next week. Meanwhile, the forecast model still showing the storm system moving away, at least both models, the GFS and the European, both on target. Still showing the heaviest of the band of activity moving across the Baton Rouge area today into your Sunday. So once again, we have that threat for some isolated tornadoes, as well as that threat really is turning more toward a heavy rainfall event, but some of these bands can produce some squally weather. That's why we're dealing with all of the significant wind that's currently across the Baton Rouge area right now. And actually, we've seen some wind gusts, at least here at the station, have been holding in at around 40 miles per hour. And I really don't see much of a change of that. And we see right now we're sitting in at 79 degrees, and you see the wind is from the sustained from the east southeast at 20 miles per hour. And not only is it causing problems here in Baton Rouge, but take a look at these airports. Remember I showed you all the cancellations we had at BTR? Same story, MSY. If you have any flights at New Orleans, Louis Armstrong, number one, you probably need to be on the road to travel down to that airport. But you see, all the flights have been canceled. American, JetBlue, Delta, Spirit, United, Southwest, they're all canceled. I think they're probably shutting down the airport due to this tropical storm. Some good news there. And I know we had a tweet from Southwest earlier this yesterday about they were going to cancel all their flights today. They're going to resume service or try to resume service, at least at MSY, the Louis Armstrong Airport, as we travel into tomorrow. So let's get to that futurecast that we're going to be expecting, at least for today. Still expecting those bands to be pushing in across from the southeast and then bending around toward the north and northwest. That will continue to be the case. On and off showers and thunderstorms continuing all the way until your Sunday morning. Not seeing any changes there. That also will be the case by Sunday morning and also Sunday afternoon. And as we move into your Monday, the storm system will slowly start to taper off. Still the rain chances on Monday at around 50%. So those high temperatures, there you go, into the upper 70s to around the lower 80s. And expected those rain chances to be at around 90 to 100%. So make sure if you do step out the door, hopefully not going anywhere anytime soon, take the umbrella. But I would say take the umbrella, but it's probably going to blow away because of the wind. Speaking of blowing away, take a look at the DOTD cam. This is I-12 at Denham Springs, and you can see the wind. They're shaking the camera and the trees there in the distance, and that's what we're talking about, those high-profile vehicles. If you don't have to be out on the roads, because that wind, a gust of wind, can come by and take your vehicle into another place, and we don't want to see that happen to anyone out there. So that's why we say just stay home. And also you have that threat for some trees falling and damaging yourself, and also you have trees taking down power lines, and you don't want to drive over any power lines because they're active and they have a lot of volts, so we don't want to see that happening. Meanwhile, let's get to those temperatures out the door. Once again, 79 here in the Baton Rouge, 79 into Hammond, and 79 into New Iberia, Morgan City, where you're dealing with the at least the landfall, at least to the west-southwest, at 77. So the tropical model still taking the storm system. Remember the other days they were at least across the Baton Rouge area. We had some that were to the east of us. Now everything is to the west of us, and still taking this storm system. Now they're trying to take it due west, a little bit west of Lafayette. So the further west the storm system goes, that heavy rainfall bands will continue to migrate toward the west as you make your way toward Interstate 49. But to remind everyone, still we have that slight risk for severe weather today. Primary threats, yes, some brief heavy rainfall, damaging winds, and even a threat for some isolated tornadoes. Weather aware day in effect. That will continue into your Sunday. With that general thunderstorm risk and a marginal risk off toward the northwest of us, with that threat for some tornadoes as well as a threat for some heavy rainfall. So we're up to 82 degrees today, 83 on your Sunday. Rain chances at 90%, down to 50% on your Monday. And then we have that transition day, which goes in the other direction. This will be on Tuesday. 40%, 89. It's going to take a while for us to hit 90 because of all the moisture and all the rainfall we're going to be receiving during the next 24 to 48 hours. And overnight lows, though, too, would drop into the lower to the mid 70s. And then the rain chances Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 30%. But hey, that's typical of this time of year. Actually, we're supposed to be around about 92 degrees anyway. High of 92, a low of 74. That's about average. And we'll start to see that with those overnight lows hovering into the mid 70s as we move toward the latter part of the 7-day. But before we get there, we're dealing with, of course, Tropical Storm Barry, and also there's something lingering to the southeast of that. We have a tropical wave that right now has a 20% chance of development, and it's going to be moving toward the Caribbean Sea. But of course, Barry still to the southwest of us with those sustained winds at around 50 miles per hour. Still waiting on that brand new advisory, which is going to be coming up here within the next few minutes or so to see if Barry is finally starting to weaken just a tad as it's encountering our landfall. But you can start to see that dry air making an impact, and you start to see this little line is extended up here. Those are those thunderstorms, Chad and Carly, that are moving toward the folks in the Mobile that is training in that same area. And then you see as you make your way toward the western portion of the storm system, see how ragged it starts to break up here. That's because of all of that black that's moving in around it. And then on the other side of it, you have dry air that's trying to infiltrate the other side. So something to take note of as this storm system is moving our way, but still in all that red, we have the heavy rainfall that still, and I mean still, will be moving our way. So everyone, don't be complacent. Even though it's just cloudy and breezy out there right now with no rain, it's going to happen later on this afternoon and evening. Once the rain starts, it's going to be heavy. And also keep your guard up because we're going to be moving into nighttime after a while, and then that means if the waters rise, can rise pretty quickly at nighttime. You want anyone, make sure to have your weather radio as well as our BR Proud app. I think we have a little bit of a full screen to show you about that, where you can download that at, where you can find your local news, weather, and sports. But on today, we want you to update you on weather. So everyone can download that at Google Play or the App Store, and it's free. There you go, Chad and Carly. So just stay home and continue to watch us, right?
Absolutely, Kevin. Thank you very much for the updates. One of our headlines so far this morning, delayed downpour, right? Because it's coming eventually. Kevin, we believe you. The rain is on the way. It will impact and greatly adversely impact the greater Baton Rouge area. We are seeing reports of downed trees and snapped trees throughout the viewing area. This is from the Jefferson Terrace neighborhood, the Inniswald area, not far from Bluebonnet, where it meets I-10 and eventually would become Jefferson Highway or intersect with Jefferson, that area, Jefferson Terrace. Look at some of the trees down from some strong winds, tropical force winds coming through the greater Baton Rouge area. We also had a viewer or one of our reporters send in a shot from Kenilworth and Perkins of a pretty big oak there that snapped from the strong winds this morning. So Mother Nature always wins, whether it's in the air through the winds or on the ground with the rains coming down with flood waters. So just something to be prepared for if you are planning on trying to venture out at all this morning before the heavy rains come in. Just be aware that big, tall trees could be snapped over at any point, and that could be a huge potential road hazard out there on the roadways.
Yeah, just make sure you're keeping yourself safe this morning. If you do see any damage in your area and you're in a safe place, be sure to take some pictures, send them in to us, and we'll be sure to share those out and let people know what's happening in and around the capital city. But again, we're already seeing some damage with some trees. Kevin, I do have a question. We've been monitoring this storm for about a week now, and we keep talking about this heavy rain, which is expected to come. We're waiting on it to get here. But I'm kind of shocked this morning that the wind has been what we've experienced so far, and that's kind of been our big story, if you will, this morning.
Well, the wind is always usually a factor when we have these tropical systems. And remember, this is such a broad storm system. All that wind has to subside, it has to go somewhere. And the wind now is just subsiding over the Baton Rouge area. Finally, it's going to start to wind down as we move into Sunday. But it's like a big, how can I say, a big jet engine. You start it up, and it takes a while for the blade to turn off. And that's what's happening across the entire area. And that blade is slowly starting to turn off as the storm system will start to weaken eventually as it's moving onshore. And only you had this whole area of winds of 70 miles per hour with some higher gusts of that 75. And for a broad area of 400 to 500 miles, it's going to take a while for that to subside. So eventually it will start to make its way, I would say around about Sunday evening into Mondays when these winds will start to break down across the area. And you see right there, I-12 and Range Avenue in Denham Springs, and you see the wind going across the highway there. And that's what we're going to continue to see, and it's only going to get a little worse as that storm system gets a little closer across the Baton Rouge area. And the reason you saw those folks bringing us those viewers having us those photos is because of our soil here in Louisiana is so, what can I say, so not so strong to hold those trees that they just topple over. And then they start to knock over power lines and things like that. And that's how we get all these power outages across the area. So if you don't have to be out, don't travel, folks. Stay home. And if you are traveling, hold on to those stern wheels, especially when you're driving those SUVs and those trucks, because those wind can just knock those vehicles over, especially driving along those bridges and overpasses.
And definitely thoughts and prayers with everyone along the entire Gulf Coast. You saw it in the radar. It's not just Louisiana, it's Mississippi, Alabama, it's Florida. We have some recent video and some pictures that were just sent into our newsroom. So this is down in Okaloosa, Florida, Okaloosa County in Florida. This was a Marine unit boat that windshield was shattered from Tropical Storm Barry. The storm surge, basically a large wave, just came and shattered the windshield of the boats. and then injured Deputy Robert Wagner, who was trying to help a boater in distress. So he is okay. The deputy was treated for facial cuts, and luckily everyone is okay. But just another image to show you that the strong storm surge and those winds, Kevin, and those high waves along the Gulf Coast there down in Okaloosa, Florida, in that county, just really can be very overpowering at times. So obviously we'd advise all non-emergency and non-law enforcement personnel to avoid all waterways along the Gulf Coast at this point.
And we talked about earlier the size of this storm system. When you have a storm system that's about 400 to 500 miles wide, those waves can be amplified when they go away from the source, and that's what happened to this gentleman, from the source, which is the storm, and then there you go. It hits them and then it causes those problems. And that's what's happening not only with the waves, and we saw some buoy heights in the Gulf that were like 10, 12 foot waves. So that's happening with this storm system because of the massive size of it. But I would say it's being attacked by a little bit of the dry air on the northwestern and northern side of it, and that's causing some problems of causing the storm not to gather in some intensity. Now we're looking at the current synopsis of what's happening with the storm system. Of course, we're now at 9:48, and you're going to start to see that status that says of 7 a.m. is going to start changing over to around about 10 a.m. about right here. And we're going to finally get an update on what's happening with Barry as it continues to move toward the northwest at 5 miles per hour. So I'm going to stay with you because within the next 10 minutes or so, we should get an update to see if Barry is finally feeling the effects of not only the landfall, but also that dry air. You can see it right there just chipping away at it off toward the west, and you start to see in the Baton Rouge area, especially in the Crescent City area, you're starting to see a little bit of some shower and thunderstorm activity creeping in on the eastern side of this storm system. Then further to the south, you still see how most of this heavy rainfall is just sitting there. Eventually, this all will start to work its way in, but will sit across the Baton Rouge area for about a couple of days. And that's when the problem is going to start with the heavy rainfall potential. And then you see on the other flank of this, this is on the eastern side where we're battling, of course, the clash of the air masses of the moist and the dry. And we're starting to see those showers and storms popping up, especially, too. We're getting some sunshine over on the other side as well. And we're starting to see those thunderstorms developing, moving toward the Mobile Bay area. And they will be dealing with that as well for the morning hours. So once again, look for that time to change over to 10 a.m. so we can get a clear picture of what is happening with this storm system. And we see that also in the water vapor satellite imagery. And notice on the last scan, about right there, I'm going to stop it about right there, and you see all of this black. There is your dry air, once again, trying to get into the storm system right along the to the north of 12 and then right toward 49, and it's trying to erode this top of this storm system. You see how it's, there you go, last scan. I want everybody to look at that. See how the intensity just dropped there? There we go, about right. You're going to see the last, boom, right there. It drops off because the dry air is trying to just take over the storm system. We'll see if the dry air will win, and hopefully it will start to at least start to dissipate the rain coverage, and most of that will hopefully start to stay off toward the Gulf. Now the temperature is still 79 with that easterly, southeasterly wind at 20 miles per hour. The dew point at 69, visibility at 10 miles, but as we know, we still can't see the skyline. That's mainly due to the wind that's blowing out there, doing a little bit of some sprinkles in the distance, taking the rainfall away. So once again, we're still holding in at 70 miles per hour with those gusts of 75, and the movement, of course, northwest at 5 miles per hour. And we're still seeing that pressure holding in at 991. I'm looking at my other graph to see if the status has changed. We still haven't had an update on the storm as of yet, still holding at the same coordinates. And the latest, of course, we still see the blowup of cloud cover that's happening off toward the south of us, but we noticed on that last water vapor satellite imagery of the dissipating image there. But then again, these storms go through cycles, and it could just be regenerating itself, and another phase of this storm system that will probably take over during the next 24 hours or so. So here we go. Once again, live view of the sky cam. I leave the tower cam indicating nothing. At least the winds are picking up there at around 35, 40 miles per hour with those straight line winds. I would say that's the gusty winds causing the trees to come down across the area. And we see on the Doppler, there's their report they had here in the Baton Rouge area of some trees down because of that wind gust of around 35 to 45 miles per hour. And then we still see the bands now moving in. Here's a cell, at least a significant cell that's moving up toward the New Orleans area, be affecting Metairie within the next hour or so. But otherwise, really not that much in the way of heavy rainfall. That's still well to the south of us, but some moderate activity, especially when this moves into the Baton Rouge area. Some squally activity will be occurring. The heaviest, though, is still to the east of us. You see about right there. Boom, as you make your way into Mobile and Biloxi. And then the heaviest still in the lightning strike to come down a lot to the south of us as you make your way to the southwest of Morgan City. We're going to back off the screen to see if we got another update. Still the status of 7 a.m. Looks like they're holding on and waiting for something. Maybe they have found something out with the storm system and they're seeing the same thing that I'm seeing here. And the storm tracker center of that dry air that is just trying to just take over this storm system. Meanwhile, next 12 hours, we're expecting those temperatures still around 79, 80, 81, 82, 83. No change there. And speaking of a little bit of a squall line, let's go toward the DOTD cam right now to show you. See how the visibility is just reduced when one of these little lines pushes through with some shower activity. You start to see the visibility go from terrific.
A little behind-the-scenes TV action right there. So obviously with wall-to-wall coverage, these mics and batteries tend to go out eventually. So Kevin, we're going to get you a new fresh battery and get you mic'd up once again. But continuing to track Tropical Storm Barry on this Saturday morning, mid-July, in the midst of hurricane season, Carly Lang. And like Kevin mentioned, it's not just this weekend that we have to, power through and survive with everybody and make sure everybody's okay and hope for the best. But eventually the rest of the summer, the tropics will continue to remain very active, and Kevin mentioned some waves out there in the the peninsula area that really could eventually head our way. But first things first, we are being patient with Tropical Storm Barry. As you see right there, that continues to churn very slowly in the Gulf, the northern Gulf, as it quickly does approach landfall here in South Louisiana, but still some time on this Saturday morning. Yeah, it's been a very slow moving storm. That's kind of been the story everywhere we've checked in. We've checked in New Orleans, out in Morgan City, as well as several areas surrounding Baton Rouge, and everyone's just kind of ready and waiting to see what comes. We're experiencing some wind. We've seen some downed trees around the capital city area, that coming with that high wind that we're kind of experiencing. That's kind of been the story all morning, the winds, and right now we're just waiting on that rain to follow through. Some high water in different areas throughout South Louisiana. Some waterways in St. Mary Parish and the Morgan City area have been closed. Some reports of high water in Plaquemines Parish as well. Traffic reports out of New Orleans are showing that there is another closure at Highway 51. That's near the I-55 interchange. It's the LaPlace area. So that closure is right there, but some other areas are open. Just know that most of our interstates and bridges are near waterways, just different outlets and canals that all connect to the Mississippi River, Amite River, Comite River, and different areas in our viewing area. So know that if you are near water, eventually these heavy rains are going to come in, and some of these river levels and waterway levels will rise, and some will tend to, over topple just a little bit. But, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has been very confident that the levees in the New Orleans area and the major structures will be very safe. Well, as we approach the top of the 10 o'clock hour on the Saturday morning, let's check back in with Fox 44's NBC Local 33's Kelly Ann Biley, who joins us live from the Governor's Office of Emergency Preparedness with the very latest. Kelly Ann?
Hey, good morning, Chad, and all you guys back there in the studios. Like Chad just said, we're down here at the Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness on Independence. It's right here in Baton Rouge. And with me right now, I have Todd Terrell, who's with the United Cajun Navy. And you're from Baton Rouge, but today this experience is a little bit different. Tell us why you're here today.
First of all, United Cajun Navy, we're a volunteer organization, but more so than ever, Louisiana is a state set up where it's so vast and so many swampy areas and low-lying areas. More than ever, this is a time where everybody needs to work together. So we're here to work together with the government.
So I understand that you're going to be signing some paperwork with them, and legitimately that they're going to be able to actually call you and then from there dispatch out some boats, but you're going to have boats on standby as well. What do you have in place right now between here and New Orleans?
Between here and New Orleans, currently we got 256 boats. And the issue with Louisiana is we need flat-bottom boats and airboats and a lot of stuff. There's a lot of animal rescues going on in South Louisiana, so a lot of the government is working with us, working with individuals that have these type of boats.
And I know you just got a call from one of your guys that's on the ground there in Terrebonne Parish. What did he tell you?
Some of the levees are overtopping. It's not the Mississippi River levees. We just want to make sure that everybody knows that currently there's no Mississippi River levees overtopping. Some of these are just levee districts in those smaller towns, and he's telling me there's a lot of animal rescues going on right now.
And so we certainly appreciate you guys being down there. As far as here in Baton Rouge, again, you're from Baton Rouge, but you've got a sort of a command post, you could say, set up here. You guys are going to be operating out of what location over the next couple days?
Currently, right there, we operate at the LaBerge Casino. It's on River Road. It kind of gives us easy maneuverability between New Orleans and Baton Rouge, and that's where we're at currently.
And that's actually because you were helping the neighbors there off of Gardier with sandbags, I believe.
Yes, we had a staging area set up right there where we were delivering sandbags all over the city.
Did you ever think that your organization would be to this point?
Never thought it would be to this point. It's kind of bittersweet because it's kind of coming back. The Cajun Navy started in Louisiana, and now we're back in Louisiana.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Mr. Terrell. This is Kellyanne Bailey reporting live from the Governor's Office of Homeland Security for NBC Local 33 and Fox 44.
Here we go, everyone. We have some breaking weather to tell you about. Barry is now a Cat 1 hurricane. We tell you that these storm systems go through phases and they go through cycles, and apparently we talked about that dry air, but apparently the dry air is not winning. This storm is staying alive, and it has like a cat, like 9 lives is what this storm is having right now. The winds are now up to 75 miles per hour. It's moving to the northwest at 6 miles per hour, and right now it's now about 40 miles now south of Lafayette, and it's moving toward those folks' vicinity. And you saw like the last image, it went away, but apparently there was a little bit of a gust of energy right before in Vermilion Bay, and apparently it just got a little bit of strength, and therefore the winds are now up to 75 miles per hour. And actually the pressure has probably actually dropped. I'm going to go back to another graphic to show what that pressure right now is doing, and I would have bet on that pressure has probably dropped a little bit. There we go. Actually, it's going up. It's still holding at 993, so that's very interesting. But the gusts have now picked up to 90 miles per hour. Wow. So now we have a Cat 1 about to move onshore. They're at Vermilion Bay, and you start to see this is a Cat 1, which means that the gusts are now at 90 miles per hour. So folks in this vicinity, right along US 90, we're talking still to you folks in Franklin, New Iberia, they're going to be receiving some wind gusts in excess of 90 miles per hour, even though you're not seeing that much in the way of rainfall that is occurring with this storm system. That's still mostly well toward the south and east of this storm system. Still a lot of wind being associated with this. And Carly, you alluded to this. This is a very big storm system. We talked about this is 400 to 500 miles wide. And that's why this tropical storm force winds are extending here in the Baton Rouge area, extending way out. And that's why we're starting to see some trees down in the Baton Rouge area, as well as numerous power outages. But it will continue its track now, picking up in speed now to the northwest at 6 miles per hour. Still as a tropical storm moving at 7 p.m. now would be to the northwest of Lafayette, picking up that speed. And then you see around about 7 a.m., which is a good thing, it's picking up speed because it can hurry up and get out of here. You see at 7 a.m., this will be up in the Shreveport area, actually near Shreveport in Bossier City, at around Sunday morning at where these winds are 45 miles per hour. So once again, the breaking news that this is now is Hurricane Barry. You see the Cat 1 hurricane, a very minimal hurricane, but still a hurricane. That's the fact. The winds are at 75 with the gust of 90, and it's moving to the northwest now a little bit quicker, at least 1 mile quicker, at around 6 miles per hour. Let's still look at the rainfall totals to see what they are adding up. And the Euro model is still indicating rainfall totals of 6 to 13 inches. We'll keep that with a grain of salt. And we still see that the heaviest bands are still on the Doppler extending back toward the south. And once again, this is a lot of heavy rainfall. You still see these oranges and reds. And once again, once this moves onshore, this will be with us in the Baton Rouge area for a while, and I mean a while, tonight into your Sunday into Monday. And this will be the threat. And a lot of folks are probably out and about right now. Well, at least have your door open and looking outside. I wouldn't go outside because the winds are so strong right now. But once again, as soon as this band moves in, you start to see it's now moving into the New Orleans area as we speak. But over this side over here, the eastern side, is where we're seeing that tornadic situation developing with those squally, really squally lines. But this will be the heavy rain event that'll be moving in. But once again, right around the center of circulation, we're seeing some wind gusts now in excess of 90 miles per hour as this Cat 1 Hurricane Barry is moving onshore right now, at least toward Vermilion Bay, and making an impact being felt not only here in the Baton Rouge area, but really throughout the entire southern section of the state. And you saw earlier the Grand Isle, what's happening there. And actually, we saw some video. I'm going to show it one more time if we can show that. This is actually with those winds blowing in from the southeast. This is actually in Mandeville. This is Lake Pontchartrain. It's actually overflowing into Mandeville. So we're having some homes there which are now flooding along the north shore. So be advised, but as I said, back flooding, when those winds flow in from the southeast, and eventually all that back flooding will work its way up toward the Amie and the Comey rivers. So once again, we have the Hurricane Barry. Winds are now at 75 miles per hour with some gusts of 90. A Cat 1 hurricane, and once again, this is really going to be the case of a wind event we're seeing right now this morning across the Capital City Metro that will turn into a rain event as we travel later this morning into the afternoon and evening. So once again, amazing what's going on with Barry, the storm that's not giving up.
And Kevin, a quick question. Hurricane strength right now at 75 miles per hour.
That's the minimum.
But once it reaches the Baton Rouge area, those winds should die down. They shouldn't sustain that level.
No, it won't sustain that level because once it moves on land, like I said, the hurricane needs water.
Right.
And it's not going to have that. It's going to be over land, and we'll start to see it dissipating. But as we said earlier, it's going to take a while. It's like turning off a fan. It's going to take a while for this storm to lose its steam. So the winds are going to be up there, but they'll start to die down as we push into your Sunday into Monday, for sure. Expect more trees down, I hate to say, and some power outages.
We're all getting prepared for the storm as it makes its way, and it's been slow moving this morning, but as Kevin mentioned, it's heating up and making its way in. We're going to continue our team coverage. We're checking in now with Courtney Williams. Looks like it is starting to rain there. You're out in Denham Springs there in Livingston Parish. Courtney, what is the weather looking like right now? It's 10:04. You've been out there since 5 this morning. What are the changes you've seen?
Hey, Carly. Well, I'm actually here in Port Vincent, right here by the Amie River, and the conditions have definitely picked up since the last time I checked in with you guys. There's definitely been some rain. Of course, it has been windy, and now it's a hurricane. I'm sure the wind will pick up a little bit more, but as Kevin said, it won't probably be as windy once it gets closer to the viewing area. Now, this Amie River is high right now, but it's typically lower, but I see it's moving in the opposite direction. So Kevin, can you just let me know how just with the river going in the opposite direction, what does that mean in terms of could there still be flooding?
Yes, Courtney, there could still be flooding. What is happening, the same sort is happening, at least the same scenario that's happening down in Mandeville along the north shore at Lake Pontchartrain. Says the wind is now blowing in from the southeast, which means it's blowing that water back toward you. We call this backwater flooding. And that's the problem that we start to see along the Amie and the Comey rivers, that water moving back where you are, and especially what's going to be happening when this rain starts to continue to increase as the afternoon and evening goes along. That will become a flooding threat. So you not only have the heavy rainfall, but you have the backwater flooding, and exacerbates the situation. Actually, I have a graph for everyone to show. Courtney, you cannot see the graph right now. I'm just going to walk you through it and talk you through it. But right now, you see the Amie River, I'm just telling you right now, is holding in at 10.81 feet. This was as of 9:15. Now, flood stage of the Amie River at Denham Springs is at 29 feet. We're still expecting it to rise to 41 feet. That would be Tuesday into Wednesday. And I don't know, Courtney, if you talk to some folks there, it's probably have that on their mind. That's going to be a major flood stage along the Amie River, not only affecting the folks over in Denham Springs, but the rest of Livingston Parish, at least along the river, as well as East Baton Rouge Parish. And I want to know, Courtney, since you're out there with the sandbags and everything like that, have you actually talked to anyone I know we talked about this morning. There's actually been talking about the Amey River there.
I haven't heard. There's been a little bit of talks, but not a whole lot. People are just mainly concerned, you know, just with their homes and making sure there's no flooding. Some people, this is like their first event going through it, living in Denham. Some people were flooded in 2016 and did get flooded out, and they're kind of just concerned with just the weather and just flooding, because Livingston Parish is very prone to flooding.
Yes.
So, you know, there's some people who are concerned, and there's some people who are kind of just waiting out and see what will happen.
Yeah, you're right, Courtney. You're right there. And, you know, you just like many people across the capital city metro, you're seeing that the water come the other direction, and that happens whenever you have these tropical systems, and that becomes a double-edged sword that we're going to be dealing with, Courtney. And I hate to say it's going to be getting worse, because looking at the radar right now, the moderate to heavy rainfall is just hours away, and it's going to be moving in now with Hurricane Barry. And the folks there, I hope they know we now have a Cat 1 hurricane on the scene. Do they, Courtney?
Oh, yeah. Well, do you think the water, well, being that it is right now, is right on here on the dock, so you expect it to get much higher?
Yes, as you saw that scale as we go along. But what's going to be happening is it's still going to take a while for that water to rise. We still need the rainfall, and that would be happening later this evening into your Sunday. And then as soon as that rainfall, you have all that runoff from the tributaries, and so eventually by Sunday night, it's going to be like a cause and effect. It's going to take a while for it to happen, and so around Sunday night into Monday into Tuesday, that's when the water levels will start going up. But it's going to be so fast when it happens that folks still need to be on guard.
Absolutely. Well, again, we just advise everyone, if you are in a flood-prone area and the water does rise, please do not attempt to drive through it. Also seek shelter. Right. There is a shelter here in the Denham Springs area. You can go to South Walker Baptist Church, that is on Hammock Road, if you do need to seek shelter if there is rising water. But again, turn around, don't drown. Like we've been saying, just be precautious as Hurricane Barry is, I was about to say tropical storm, but now it is a hurricane. So please be cautious as the storm is moving in, and just make sure you guys stay safe.
Courtney Williams reporting live in Port Vincent this morning as Hurricane Barry now officially approaches landfall in South Louisiana. Kevin, we've been taking it very seriously, and now many people, when they hear the term hurricane, even though the wind levels are higher, it's not a huge bit higher from the tropical storm force level winds, but the severity of the threat is still very real and very tangible with a Category 1 hurricane.
Well, you hear that H word, you just change the whole, you know, the whole situation of what we're talking about. But it is a minimal hurricane. Sustained winds now around 75 miles per hour on the scale. That's still very low, but it's nothing to play with, because we're dealing with some gusts of 90 miles per hour. That's happening down in Vermilion Bay. So something that's going to be a little bit on the deadly side, I hate to say, as well as that threat for not only the wind but for the rain is what we're dealing with this morning. So it will continue to be the case. But getting back to the Amey River, I know I actually live in that area, and I was out before I got here to work yesterday. I was up knocking stuff in the attic yesterday, because whenever you see that thing that says 41 feet, I know at my home that's about 4 feet of water in my house.
Oh boy.
So 38 feet, it's in my backyard. 41 feet, it's in my house. So I'm with everyone out there, and I know the mayor was on early this morning. She's been through the same process as well. A lot of folks out there have been through the same process. So I'm with you on that. Let's now get to the Doppler. What we're going to be dealing with right now, at least in the form of some rainfall that's moving in right now. And it's really, as I said, we're expecting the whole heavy amount of rainfall to be occurring within the next couple of hours. I know it's taking its time, but it will be here, and it will be across the capital city metro. As I said, it's just taking its time, and once it will get here, it will be here for a while. Speaking of rainfall, it's starting to do that into the New Orleans area. We have a live view there, and we're starting to see those bands now moving there into the New Orleans metro. And we also see that on the Doppler, and that's that portions of that heavy band that's currently pushing in from the south. And we have one more band, let's say, the last scan. right there in the Metairie that's pushing off toward the north, but that's about it. Tropical storm warning continues, all the areas highlighted in red. And that's why we're dealing with all the wind. That's really denoting the gusty winds that we're dealing with. And indeed, you saw the wind gust excess of around 40 to 55 miles per hour. And even Courtney was denoting the winds blowing in from the southeast along the Amey and the Comey rivers, the opposite direction, because the river should be flowing toward the southeast, not from the southeast toward the northwest. And that's going to be causing some problems a little bit later this evening, especially when we exacerbate that flooding situation. Storm surge warnings as well as the watches continue. We had a storm surge off to the south of us at about 6 feet. Down toward the southwest. Flash flood watches continue as well. We're expecting between 5 to 10 inches of rainfall. Some local folks could see up to around 15 or so inches of rainfall. So here we go. We have Hurricane Barry. It's even highlighted there under that banner. But you see the winds are at 75 with some gusts of 90, and the movement has actually picked up. Last hour was at 5 miles per hour. Now it's at 6 miles per hour. And the pressure right around 993. We thought it was encountering some dry air. It was there for a while, but apparently the storm system is winning, especially with all that bulk of precipitation off toward the southern quadrant of it. And we started to see the winds. It will still continue to be at 65 miles per hour around 6 p.m. moving toward Lafayette. But I want to remind everyone, every storm systems are different, and this one indeed is different. Most of the significant winds are still compacted around the center of circulation, but the rainfall, as I said, is compacted off toward the southeast and also down toward the southeast of that. So the forecast still racing this storm off toward the north as it moves toward I-49. Same story on the Euro, not expecting any change there anytime soon. So the heaviest bands will continue to move right along the Mississippi River, bringing us the wonderful rain threat. I hate to say that. Isolated rain chances will continue, at least tornadoes will continue for today, as well as what they were seeing back toward the Mississippi and Alabama areas with those heavy squall lines be denoting for that. And also want to advise everyone, if we have a slight risk for severe weather today, we're under a weather aware day. And you see those threats of the heavy rainfall as well as some damaging wind. And as we move into your Sunday, that threat level will continue, and even that threat for some isolated tornadoes. Meanwhile, that forecast, at least the rest of your 7-day forecast, indicating much more of the same, at least for the next 24 hours, weather aware days and rain chances at 90 to 100%. Temperatures into the lower 80s, but all that rain cooled air. Overnight lows, some folks could drop into the upper 60s to the lower 70s, and then we'll start to moderate as we push into your Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday with our rain chances at around 30%. And if we can, let's go back to system number 2 to tell you what's happening with Hurricane Barry. Once again, the winds are hovering in at 75 miles per hour. We have some gusts of 90 miles per hour. System number 2 to show you what we're talking about with the Barry. And it will continue to push off toward the west-northwest. There you go. Thank you very much. At 6 miles per hour to the moving at least to 40 miles to the south of Lafayette. And once again, even though it looks like it's now moved on shore, it's the angle of this graphic. It's actually still back toward Vermilion Bay, so it's still back here. It hasn't made landfall as of yet. So we're going to be expecting that here within the next hour or so. It's just taking a sweet time moving across the bay. So once again, it's a Cat 1 hurricane moving toward the folks into Lafayette, but as we're still seeing right now, this is to the west of Baton Rouge, and all this heavy rainfall you see right now down to the south and east of us, this will eventually start to work its way in across the area. I know it's taking its time to happen, but eventually it will. And once it will, Chad and Carly, it's going to be with us for a long period of time. Get ready for a heavy rainfall event and also a long night. And I hate to say, hopefully no one will be out and about, because we do not need any rescues going on of folks trying to travel and also trying to sightsee and take pictures and things like that. There you go.
All right, Kevin, thank you. Well, we're going to continue our team coverage. We've got people all over the area right now. Our Harrison Golden is here in Baton Rouge. We've got Courtney Williams out in Livingston Parish. You can see Harrison right there along the levee in downtown Baton Rouge. You see the wind pushing him there. Harrison, what's it looking like right now at 10:15 this morning?
Yeah, Carly, the key is to keep the legs wide at this point, because we're right here by the river and just got to be careful as far as that wind coming in more intensely than we've been feeling it all morning long. I just want to, if you don't mind here, Chuck, if you could zoom in toward how high the Mississippi River is right now. As you can see, not many steps between that water and where I'm standing right now. And that's just, again, without any sort of high intense rain coming down, although we have noticed over the past hour or so that rain is coming down a little bit more intensely. The flags as we're blowing, I'm not sure if we'd be able to get a shot here based on our our situation right now of those flags blowing in the wind, but I can tell you that they are coming pretty quickly, more quickly than we've seen all morning long. Again, evidence of what is now Hurricane Barry, Category 1. Really, that difference between the tropical storm status and Category 1 hurricane is that wind that we're feeling right now. So that's the difference. But that really doesn't change the discussion of the rain that we've been feeling. I know Kevin's been talking about this all morning long, and Carly and Chad as well. And that's the rain that's going to be hitting a little bit more intensely over the next few hours, and that's going to be something to watch later this morning. But again, Barry slowly inching its way to the Baton Rouge area. But right here, right by the Raising Cane's River Center, they have porta potties all situated out, a few dozen of them outside the River Center. But keep in mind, it is not a shelter. The Raising Cane's River Center, not a shelter. One correction we do have to note, the Southern University campus does have a shelter. It's the first, the only active shelter at this point in East Baton Rouge, or in the city of Baton Rouge proper. That is 801 Harding Boulevard. The mayor's office sending us that correction shortly ago. I'm going to just double check, make sure from that email, but that's 801, and we're also hearing word that Hurricane shelter is open in Central, I believe at Central Middle School as well. But yes, the F.G. Clark Activity Center in Baton Rouge on the Southern University campus is open as well as a shelter for Baton Rouge residents. 801 Harding Boulevard, just to correct what we had noted earlier today. But again, this is the situation here. We do have a few people getting, believe it or not, their final bits of exercising, final bits of walking the dog, perhaps just one last run or walk before that rain gets more intense. And there we go, showing you some of those flags here, how much more intensely they're blowing at the moment near, right between the River Center and the Mississippi River Bridge. So yeah, if we don't mind here, Chuck, taking you down to the water down here. We're taking a little of everywhere here just to get you a sense of what's actually going on. But at the risk of going down here, not too many steps between myself and that water. We can expect that water to at least edge a little bit closer to this jogging path here, the Riverfront Plaza here in Baton Rouge, as a result of these rains to be coming over the next few hours. But in the meantime, here at the Raising Cane's River Center, right on the jogging path, you get the wind here blowing harder than ever, guys. Back to you.
All right, Harrison, we are taking a look very closely. We see those gusts, we see the flags whipping around, and those heavy gusts just a few minutes ago, probably the strongest you've experienced so far this morning?
Yeah, certainly this morning, and I will garner as well to say the rain is harder than I've seen it this morning as well, at least in the parts of the city parish that I've been around today. I can't really give you a gauge of how many miles an hour these winds are hitting me right now, but I can say pretty confidently that this is the heaviest I've seen it today.
Harrison, have y'all been set up downtown? Have y'all moved around at all? Have you seen other parts of the capital city? Any updates on any neighboring areas close to downtown?
Yeah, so the neighboring situations, again, this is given we're near the water, so as far as the wind picking up, this is certainly one of the, I would say, the heavier spots in Baton Rouge at the moment. That's not to say that we're not experiencing pretty heavy winds across the city parish area, but again, this is just a small piece of that puzzle. But again, this is widespread. This wind, this rain picking up no matter where you are in the city parish. We're seeing at this hour, as is now Hurricane Barry, getting more severe than ever.
All right, Harrison Golden reporting live downtown near the Mississippi River and the levees as those hurricane-force winds start to make their way here into Baton Rouge. Harrison, thank you very much. We'll check back in with you in just a bit. Let's check in with meteorologist Kevin Smith. Kevin, we were talking about the winds here in the greater Baton Rouge area right now. Not quite 75 miles per hour, but how strong were those gusts that Harrison was just experiencing near the Mississippi River?
Right now we're experiencing some gusts here in the metro up to about 50 miles per hour. Let's go toward the tower cam. I think I have that up right now. And you start to see the winds moving in, of course, from the east and southeast at a good clip. And that really would continue to be the case at least for the next few hours or so. And you see, here's the view for at least from our tower cam. We're looking straight down. And you see how the winds are starting to whip there. And we had a flag over next to the building. I'm going to try to zoom in toward that. And you can see how the winds are just taking the flags. You have these gusts of winds that will come up, and then they'll start to dissipate just a tad. And you see that American flag they're waving in the distance. And I know a lot of the car dealerships around town, they've actually prepared. They've taken down their giant flags away. But this will continue to be the case. We actually see those winds, Chad and Carly, starting to pick up. We could even see some wind gusts of around 60 miles per hour here in the metro. So once again, that's why we tell everyone, if you are out and about driving, please, ma'am, please, sir, hold on to those steering wheels on the vehicle, because these winds could knock a vehicle off the roadways, especially when you're going to cross those overpasses and the bridges across the metro area. Let's take a look right now. At least what's happening on the satellite perspective of the latest on Barry. And we're still seeing those winds of 75 miles per hour moving to the northwest at 6 miles per hour, still to the 40 miles to the south of Lafayette. And I said earlier, even though this vantage point shows that the storm system has made landfall, it has not. It's still in Vermilion Bay, and it's going to be moving toward the folks into Lafayette. And you still see how the storm system, the path, has been more erratic and moved off toward the southwest and toward the northwest, and it moved to the west, and you see the pattern there. But these storm systems, they do that. They bobble around just a tad. But you still see it's a very uniquely organized system, usually a typical tropical system or hurricane, that is. You have everything wrapping around it. You have an eye wall, at least along that. But apparently with this storm system, all of the significant rainfall is off toward the south and then extending towards the eastern quadrants of the storm system. There's really not that much happening along the northern side of this, because we have been having dry air that's really been cutting it off. And so just to think, if we didn't have that dry air, and we already have a Cat 1 from even dry air infiltration, we probably would be having a Cat 2 or a Cat 3 hurricane we'll be talking about this morning, because the waters in the Gulf were so warm into the mid-80s, and we really didn't have any fronts that were moving across the Baton Rouge area as well as the state for the entire winter that could cool those waters down. Therefore, there's just fuel for this storm to continue to develop. But once again, the wind a factor this morning. You saw all of the trees out there moving, so hold on to your vehicles if you're out traveling, but otherwise stay home. Rainfall, we're expecting still between 5 to 10 inches of rainfall with higher amounts, because all of this green and oranges and reds you see to the south is still off toward the radar site, extending down to the south of that, will eventually move into the Baton Rouge area later this morning. Chad and Carly.
All right, Kevin, thank you very much. The winds and rain picking up here in the greater Baton Rouge area, but especially down there on the coast of Louisiana.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to check in now with Dalfred Jones. He is joining us from Morgan City. Dalfred, good morning. I see you've got your hood up. The rain coming down this morning now and starting to pick up.
Hey Carly, hey Chad, good morning to you and all of your viewers. Definitely the rain is beginning to pick up. It's the same consistency that we've been seeing for most of the morning, although it's been on and off. Is this that same consistent light shower, but we're seeing it now. Wind is really picking up. I'm keeping an eye on a piece of tin on the back of this building that's flapping back and forth. Definitely want to keep an eye out for flying debris in weather like this. We've seen police officers going back and forth. They may be responding to some type of emergency, but they flew by just moments ago. And if we can flip the camera back around this way, you'll see some of the debris in the street. It isn't much, but there are a few down branches here on Highway 182 in Morgan City. And you can see the Office of Emergency Preparedness here in St. Mary Parish have used one of their trucks to block off the old bridge in Morgan City. So obviously they don't want people traveling. And of course, the city was under curfew from 10 p.m. until 6 a.m. So while we are no longer under curfew, we still want to encourage people to stay indoors because, as I said, the winds are pretty high. My radar is currently reading about 45 miles an hour, but we're seeing gusts upwards of about 50, maybe 55, 60 miles an hour at times, enough to wipe a vehicle off of the road, and that's highly possible. So we want to encourage everyone to stay indoors if need be. St. Mary Parish dealing with upwards of 6,000 power outages across the parish. Right now they're working on picking up reinstalling 7 down power, or utility poles rather, in the Morgan City area. So they're going to wait until the wind dies down until they can go back up into those bucket trucks and those emergency crews and start repairing some of those power lines in the Morgan City and throughout St. Mary Parish.
And Alfred, you mentioned earlier this morning that power outages was a big concern there in Morgan City. Are y'all still dealing with that power outage?
Carly, yes, we are, and I would imagine that we're probably going to be dealing with it for a while now, since now Hurricane Barry has officially been upgraded. So I think it's going to be a while before they can begin to send crews back up into those bucket trucks and repair those lines.
All right, Alfred, thank you very much. Y'all stay safe out there. I'm sure we'll be checking back in with you a little bit later this morning.
And we do have an update just into our newsroom. Point Capee Parish is now under a curfew, which will begin tonight. If we're getting the very latest information, I believe at 8 o'clock tonight. So 8 o'clock this evening, overnight into tomorrow morning, Point Capee Parish will also be under a curfew.
I don't know about you, Chad, but ever since that Barry's been upgraded now to hurricane with our live shots, we're checking in with our reporters. The vibe seems a little more intense now. You can hear the wind picking up. You can see the rain picking up. We've been waiting on it all morning, the slow-moving storm, and now it's kind of making its way in, and you can kind of feel it, that sense of urgency that we've been prepared for all morning, now ready to step into place.
Many viewers went to bed last night thinking when they woke up this morning the rain would be here, ready to just drop buckets in Louisiana. It's been delayed, that delayed downpour, right? But it is headed our way, and we want to check in with an interview we had earlier with the mayor in just a bit. But first, let's go back to Kevin Smith, our meteorologist, for the very latest information on Hurricane Barry as it rapidly approaches, or not really rapidly, but eventually approaches us in our area here in South Louisiana.
Yeah, you can really hear it with our reporters out there. You can feel the pace is really picked up because the storm, of course, has increased in intensity now with those winds of 75 and some gusts of around 90 miles per hour. And also the winds here in the Baton Rouge area have also increased because the storm is getting closer. We're now seeing those wind gusts of around 50 miles per hour. A little bit latest on the outages being reported. If we go toward the map right now, East Baton Rouge Parish right now is up to around 7,300 folks without power. Ascension Parish now is reporting about 4,600 without power. Assumption, 5,300. Livingston Parish, about 743. The total amount of people without power in the state is still into the 60,000 range plus. So be advised of that. And you see the outages, at least in the Baton Rouge area, are starting to increase as well as the increase off toward the south of us. And take a look at this. A lot of reds are popping up because this is in the alignment of this, at least now of Hurricane Barry. And you see all the way down toward, of course, Grand Isle. We've had some video, actually had a little bit of a photo that was happening of Grand Isle with the utility lines that were down along LA1. So this is continuing to be the case. So live view of our tower cam right now showing nothing but the low clouds across the area. And once again, the winds are up across the entire Baton Rouge area. I'm going to change this sky cam and turn it around toward the wind. And you see how it's bouncing around. And I'm now turning it toward some wind, and you can see I'm going to move it down a little bit, and you can see how the trees are just moving with the wind, because right now sustained winds here at the station are going at around 35 miles per hour, and indeed this will bring some trees down across the Baton Rouge Metro, and that's what we're seeing right now with those wind gusts up there. I want to advise everyone, if you do not need to travel, stay home, stay off the roads, and leave this to the law enforcement, leave this to the professionals. So the movement, once again, is to the northwest. It's picked up in some speed, now at 6 miles per hour. The pressure still at 993 millibars. Meanwhile, currently on the perspective of what's happening on the satellite, You would notice in that last scan, it dissipated and then started to pop back up. As I said, these systems, they go through a metamorphosis. They go through a little bit of a phase, just like a thunderstorm sometimes will pulse up and pulse down. And apparently this is what this tropical system is doing. We had some dry air that was encountering this storm system that was really trying to inhibit it from developing. And finally, it looks like the storm system has won the battle. Still now a Cat 1 hurricane with those sustained winds, of course, of 75. It will continue its track off toward the northwest, toward the Lafayette area. But you will notice all of this red extending, which means the blow-up of thunderstorm activity as well as heavy rainfall. That's what this is denoting. And this will be this heavy rainfall band that will continue to move our way toward the Baton Rouge area. That's why we have that threat for the heavy rainfall. And indeed, this is a very large complex of storms. You can see Barry is pretty big. This way down here, this is the Yucatan Peninsula, Cancun down here. So we're almost encompassing half of the Gulf of Mexico. That's about, what, 400 or 500 miles. So all of that activity will have to work its way across the Baton Rouge area. And we're starting to see even some high clouds and some more clouds that are moving into portions of eastern Texas. So this storm system is as big as the state of Louisiana. So something to take note of. So once again, that storm system will be moving off toward the northwest. At least moving as a very strong tropical storm later this evening, 65-mile-per-hour winds. Then it would be to the northwest of Opelousas. Actually, near Opelousas there. And then it would start to race off by Sunday morning into the Shreveport metro. So the good thing about this storm system, it's going to start to pick up in intensity, at least a forward movement, as it moves off across portions of the state. Earlier, it was trying to linger it just a tad. So currently on the Doppler, there go your showers and storms that are now working their way in. And now we're getting reports of numerous wind reports. And you see we have one here that's now being reported. This is earlier this morning. This was at 6:47. This is at Bayou Vista near Patterson. We had a wind gust of 56 miles per hour. We also have some more wind gusts. This is down toward near New Orleans, Oklahoma. And we have, the report is that early this morning. We had a wind gust there, but remember this is up in altitude, 59 miles per hour. Also, we have reports, this is along the oil derricks down in the Gulf. We have reports of at least 71 miles per hour. That was earlier this morning. Speaking of that, we have another one here. There we go. Now, this is at a sensor height of 81 feet. Remember I said, Chad and Carly, the higher you go up, the higher the winds are, and you'll see a wind gusting up to 64 miles per hour. So everyone be advised of that. Like if you go on top of our tower, the wind speed is 35. It's going to be about 45 to 50 miles per hour. So once again, we have the tropical storm warnings in effect because of all the wind we're experiencing, as well as that threat for some heavy rainfall. Everyone highlighted in the red. That's not going anywhere anytime soon. That's until Sunday morning, extending all the way along most of the I-10 corridor. And then as you make your way into the Baton Rouge area, into Mandyville, and I would bet Lafayette's been taken out of this because they're probably under another warning, and I bet it's under a hurricane warning. But I'm going to change gears and go toward my warning guides to make sure that they're now under a hurricane warning. So if you are traveling in that area, you need to know, at least into the Lafayette area, what is happening there. There you go. They're under a hurricane warning. That's why they were not highlighted, and you see the darker red there denoting that they are now under a hurricane warning, which means the folks to the southwest of us, that's Lafayette, Franklin, they're experiencing hurricane force conditions, which means winds sustained of 75 miles per hour, and those gusts up to 80 and 90 miles per hour into the Lafayette area. Speaking of that, I'm going to try to change my gears and go over toward the DOTD cams of what is happening for the folks at least into the Lafayette area. And right now we have a cam set up. This is I-10 and I-49, but the cam is pointing away from the actual wind, so it appears that you really don't see that much, but indeed it is raining there into Lafayette. But do not travel, if you are still in your automobile or your truck, to the west of us, because the Lafayette area is under a hurricane warning as this storm system is making surely making its voyage toward making landfall here within the next couple of hours. So once again, for us, we will continue to see nothing but some gusty winds in excess of 35 to 45 miles per hour, with some higher gusts even up to 60 miles per hour. That's going to be causing a lot of power outages, which continue across the Baton Rouge area, and that will also continue into this evening as well. Let's take a look at the rainfall potential where we're going to be expecting as we move toward late tonight into around about Monday evening, when most of the storm system will start getting out of here, and still that bullseye of precipitation keeping it the Baton Rouge area between around about I would say 10, and you see some folks bullseyeing there at around 16 inches of rainfall. That'll be in the area that's highlighted in the white you see on that scale. Now the black area, that's about 20 inches, and you still see off toward the southwest of us. So thankfully that's moving away from the Baton Rouge area. But once again, I would say between 5 to 10 inches of rainfall. Some folks are receiving up to around 15, 16 inches of rain, but still you folks along the Amy, the Comey, the Tickfaw and the Tangipahoa rivers basins, you're expecting a major flood event, and you're expecting that, which means the river will go above flood stage. So make sure you have those sandbags available. Also make sure you have your secured items in a secure place. Make sure they're locked up and well above that flood stage, because you're going to be experiencing that. On top of that, with that wind blowing in from the southeast, we had our own Courtney Williams that was live down into Port Vincent as well as over in Denham Springs, showing that the water along the Amy River is now moving in from the southeast because of that breezy wind, and that causes the problems what we call backwater flooding. Therefore, you have the double whammy. You have the heavy rainfall plus the backwater flooding, therefore exacerbating the situation. And then the further west you go, the rain chances will go away. Same story the further east you go, but that's an exception now because this has changed, because we're dealing with some heavy bands that were supposed to have been over the Baton Rouge area early this morning. Because of that dry air has now shifted off toward the Mobile Bay area. So some of these yellows are now popping up back toward Alabama, extending into Florida. So once again, a heavy rain event as well as a gusty wind event is what we're experiencing across the Baton Rouge metro area. Tropical storm warning continues, as well as a flash flood watch until tomorrow morning. And if you're traveling off toward the west, hopefully you're not doing that, we have a hurricane warning in effect for the Lafayette metro area as well. So it appears that Hurricane Barry now is making its impact with those winds of 90, actually winds of 75 with gusts of 90, and it's moving to the northwest, picking up steam at around 6 miles per hour. Back over to you.
All right, Kevin, thank you very much. We are seeing those stronger winds, rain starting to fall in South Louisiana, even here in the greater Baton Rouge area, and we've seen a lot of powerful winds and rain down in the Morgan City area so far.
Yeah, that's right. We've had crews all over the area monitoring tropical storm. It's been upgraded now to Hurricane Barry. We're seeing some more rainfall here in Baton Rouge as it continues to pick up. It has been a slow-moving storm. You mentioned earlier people were probably expecting to wake up and be seeing the brunt of this storm, but it hasn't made its way just yet here to the capital city. But we are starting to see some more effects of that. Kevin mentioning Lafayette now under a hurricane warning there. So we're continuing to monitor this throughout the morning. Again, we are starting to see some of those impacts picking up. We have crews all over the area monitoring in Denham Springs, out in Ascension Parish. We've got Kellyanne Biley at GOSEP this morning, which the governor should be getting his update here in about 20 minutes at 11, and then we'll be hearing an update from him that will be open to the public around 12:30. You can see the wind blowing out there. Where is that? I-12, I believe.
Near Denham. Near
Denham. You can see the wind picking up, and now the rain is starting to be added into those pictures as well.
Right. Over the next few hours, we'll continue to track Hurricane Barry. A lot of tree damage here in the greater Baton Rouge area as well. Carly, you mentioned all of our various crews. Reports from down south in Plaquemines Parish, they have experienced some water overtopping a back levee. That's the Myrtle Grove and Point Celeste area, but Highway 23 currently open. That's down in Plaquemines Parish. We've seen Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser tweet out some pictures from that area as well, with some of that water overtopping one of the levees. We've seen a lot of winds just kind of whipping through our viewing area, and rain starting to fall on our reporters, our crews scattered throughout. But down in Morgan City, Dalford Jones has been down there keeping an eye on the power outages, the rain and wind levels, but also catching up with some emergency personnel. In just a bit, I believe we'll hear from some of the preparations that are going on down there south in Morgan City as we continue to track what is now Hurricane Barry, a Category 1 storm here making its way into South Louisiana.
Yeah, we were actually just with Dalford a few minutes ago. He said so far the wind was picking up, the rain picking up. I'm just seeing on Twitter, he tweeted out about 44 seconds ago, a tree falls on a power line there in Morgan City. They've been without power. He says him and his team woke up this morning and immediately lost power around 3 or 4 in the morning. They had to get ready in the dark, and of course that is continuing to be an issue now at almost 11 o'clock this morning. And that video he tweeted out with that tree falling on the power line, he said power outages there in Morgan City are probably going to continue to be an issue, especially now that this tropical storm has been upgraded to a hurricane, Hurricane Barry. The high winds are making it dangerous for those power crews to get out in those bucket trucks to address these issues of power outages. So now's the time that people really need to be patient. They need to stay at home if they can and give these crews time to let this storm move through. Then they can get out and assess. But as we've been saying all morning, crews in every, we've got power crews, we've got at the state level, the local level, the parish level, in place and ready to go. We're just waiting on the storm to make its way through so they can get out there and assess.
And many times with these type of weather systems, officials advise all the residents to stay off the roadways, like you mentioned, because those emergency crews and power crews and law enforcement are trying to make their ways to their respective areas of need. So earlier this morning, we did catch up with East Baton Rouge Mayor President Sharon Weston Broome. She joined us here in studio to update the city of Baton Rouge's preparations and plans for then Tropical Storm Barry, now turned Hurricane Barry, this Saturday morning. East Baton Rouge Mayor President Sharon Weston Broome, good morning. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'm glad to see that we don't have the anticipated rain that we thought we would receive, but nevertheless, we still have to remain vigilant.
It is a marathon. We've got a long way to go. We just saw our colleague Harrison Golden reporting from the Raising Cane's River Center, where he saw some porta potties. At this point, the River Center is not planned on being used as a temporary shelter.
No, it is not. In fact, we are asking people if they need shelter to go to the F.G. Clark Activity Center on Southern University's campus. That center is staged, open and ready to go for individuals, and so if people feel that they need shelter, we would like for them to go there. The River Center is not open, and it will be our center or shelter of last resort if we need it. And I will tell you that it will probably be directed more towards people who may need assistance from outside of East Baton Rouge Parish.
Evacuation type shelter.
Correct.
What have you guys been doing overnight? You had a news conference yesterday. What has happened from then until now with the storm preps?
Well, I will tell you that number one, our DPW has continued to identify areas, thanks to citizens who are contacting us, that possibly have obstructions to drainage, and we've been making sure all of that has taken place. Earlier this week, we deployed barricades. We have not had to implement those barricades because we don't have the deluge that we thought we would have at this time. And we've also taken care of an issue surrounding an aqua dam in certain part of our city that was certainly causing some citizens in a community, in a neighborhood, some great distress. So that no longer exists. And so we've been managing, monitoring, and we have certainly been encouraging and imploring our people to be prepared. And I will say, thanks to media outlets like yours and our Red Stick Ready platform, which we encourage people to stay in communication with us there, that our citizens and our community is much more prepared than we were in 2016.
And speaking of the historic flood of 2016, it sprung up on us.
The
city, the state wasn't as prepared as we are now. That's a huge notable difference here in 2019.
Absolutely. I will tell you that city parish government, first of all, we've been proactive for at least a week recognizing that this weather event might come our way. And so our team has been out there cleaning, addressing issues, and so we are a lot more prepared. There's a collaboration among state and local elected officials, and so we are managing and leveraging resources. I declared a state of emergency in preparation in case we needed to seek federal assistance. So we've lined up, and I would say we followed the playbook really closely in terms of what we need to do when we have a major weather event.
Would you say, as a parish and as a state, as Chad mentioned, we've learned a lot from 2016 until now, and I know those fears are still real with people, but as you said, y'all have been on top of the storm from the beginning to make sure something like that doesn't happen again.
Yes, you know, one of my messages has been we can't operate in a spirit of fear, because fear paralyzes you, right? And I have seen our citizens shift from fear to being proactive. They've been, I would like to describe it as prayerfully prepared, right? And that kind of diffuses the anxiety and the fear. I don't dismiss the anxiety. I understand it, because when you've been through a flood, when you've been out of your house, in many instances, people are still trying to regroup from 2016. I get that impact. It's almost like, you know, post-traumatic stress syndrome when something like that happens. But I believe that people, because of what we went through in 2016, and because we had the opportunity to get ourselves positioned and prepared, that it has helped our citizens enormously in dealing with this issue.
You mentioned it yourself. We heard that soundbite from yesterday's news conference about you didn't think it was going to be as bad 3 years ago, and then sure enough, a year later, you still weren't back in your home. No one wants to go through that again, and I think maybe more emphasis has been placed on storm preparations into this state, not taking anything for granted. And even though we've got some good news so far this morning, we still have a very long way to go.
You're absolutely right. I'm encouraging people, even this Saturday morning when there's not a lot of rain, don't take anything for granted. I believe we must still remain vigilant. We must remain prepared and in tune, and that's why I'm encouraging everybody to stay in contact with us through our Red Stick Ready platform at brla.gov. They can also stay in contact with us on social media through Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, Red Stick Ready. And I love that term. I believe that we are Red Stick Ready.
I was out and about yesterday doing an afternoon jog, and I saw some people out cleaning up the drainage in their area. Do you think the community has kind of stepped up in preparing as well?
Absolutely. I believe that the community has identified, as we've been sharing with them, if they notice things that are on their property that should be cleaned, removed, etc., that they've been taking those steps. And in addition, I, for example, had a couple of people that reached out on social media about some areas that were still in need of assistance from the June event that we had. And so when they sent me the information, we immediately got on it, our DPW team. So when we keep those lines of communication open between citizens and government, then it helps us address those issues. And I will tell you, our citizens certainly have stepped up to the plate.
A lot of teamwork from the community, but also from city, parish, and state officials. You did mention the issue with the aqua dams concerning EBR and Iberville Parish. Just maybe walk us through the logistics a little bit in terms of different parish leaders trying to keep their residents safe, and at times the order of items gets a little bit skewed.
You're absolutely right. So, you know, I've shared that I have a great relationship with President Urso. We're colleagues, we're friends. He took the step that he wanted to protect the citizens of Iberville Parish with the aqua dam. It's one of those situations where when he puts that up, it protects his people, but it impairs and obstructs the folks in East Baton Rouge Parish. So while I certainly understand his desire to protect his people in a weather event, I have that same desire for the citizens of East Baton Rouge Parish. And so we filed an injunction yesterday to remove or deflate those aqua dams, so there would be no obstruction for the citizens in East Baton Rouge Parish. And we have a court date on Monday. But my ultimate goal for the two of us is to see if there is a resolution that we can come up with and collaborate on to address that issue. You know, we're so close, we're adjacent. It's East Baton Rouge and Iberville in that particular corridor, and we both want the best for our citizens and our communities. And I think before the next event, we should be able to come up with some type of resolution.
And as of this morning, those aqua dams have been deflated?
Yes. Yeah, as of yesterday, I believe. So we're moving forward.
And moving forward throughout the day, we've mentioned several times we haven't had a lot of rain or heavy impact as of right now, but as Chad mentioned, it is a marathon. We're bracing for the worst, hoping the best as we continue throughout the day. Do you have any plans of holding a news conference or an update at any point, or are you just kind of playing it by ear based on the weather?
We will probably give an update at some point this afternoon. Of course, we've been collaborating and working in conjunction with the governor's office, and I know he has an update coming at 12:30. My goal when I leave here is to check on folks in shelter to make sure that they have what they need, and then I will be going to MOSEP, which is where we are monitoring this weather event, and certainly whatever we need to do to make sure we're serving the citizens of Baton Rouge. That's our headquarters to do so.
Having grown up here in Louisiana, having experienced so many storms over the years, over the decades, and in recent years, the resiliency, the spirit of our people, especially here in East Baton Rouge, you know, the parish, but then the state as a whole. When storms come, we are at our best, and neighbors are helping neighbors.
You're absolutely right. We are a resilient community. That's probably our middle name right now, Red Stick Resilient, Baton Rouge. And we come to the needs of individuals and our neighbors. We make sure that everyone is well. Our concern for others is demonstrated at a very high level, and so I believe that that's one of the signatures of our community, our resiliency and our desire during time of crisis to be there for our neighbor.
It's great to see our community come together. Hopefully we don't experience anything like we've seen in the past with this storm, but again, as the Mayor President has just told us, everyone's in place and we're ready for it.
Absolutely.
Mayor Broome, thank you so much for your time. Be safe today. And we will continue to keep an eye on Tropical Storm Barry as it approaches. So I know it's going to be a very long day, but it's going to be a good day for us.
That's what I think, too.
All right, Mayor Broome, thank you.
Thank you.
And as anticipated, Tropical Storm Barry at the time has now become Hurricane Barry, Category 1, with those winds sustaining at 75 miles per hour. We continue to track the path of Barry as it approaches South Louisiana and officially makes landfall on the Saturday morning. But some of the keys from Mayor Broome's interview, the level of preparation, the confidence in the ability to be ready for heavy rainfall in excess of 10 to 20 inches in various pockets of the greater Baton Rouge area. No one's going to be caught off guard like many were 3 years ago. Nobody's going to be surprised by the amount of rain because, like you mentioned, we've been detailing it all week long.
Yeah, and as Mayor Broome mentioned as well, people out in the community have also been doing their part. They've been getting their homes ready, clearing out the drainage ditches in the neighborhood. I saw some of that myself yesterday when I was out and about, a couple cleaning the drainage area around their home. So I think, you know, the flood of 2016 was, of course, a very hard time for our area, a very sad situation, but I think because of that, we're much more prepared. The resiliency of our community is just amazing to see the way that we've come back. And now with this hurricane, now Hurricane Barry, I think we're much more prepared, and hopefully we're overly prepared, and we're not going to have to deal with the things that we saw. But if we do, I think we're all ready for it.
We have crews scattered throughout the greater Baton Rouge and South Louisiana areas. Our meteorologist, our storm tracker team continue to follow the very latest path. We'll head back down in just a few minutes down to the Morgan City area. Some of our crews meeting up with emergency responders and Army National Guard and just other officials training in the area to provide rescue crews and rescue services if needed, because we know that a lot of power outages are down there along the Gulf Coast. And unfortunately, some of the Baton Rouge Rouge area has experienced off and on power outages, whether it be through the rain or some down power lines in the area that we'll have to keep an eye out for. Just be prepared for the worst, and hopefully we'll all just power through this storm together. As we approach the 11 o'clock hour, and in about an hour and a half, we'll hear from Governor John Bel Edwards on the very latest on now Hurricane Barry.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to check in with Kevin Smith real quick for an update. I do have a question for you. I had a viewer tweet me. They were curious about Bayou Manchac. Do you have any updates on that area?
Yes, we actually have the graphic, if we can pull it up right now, of what's going to be happening at the Amy River at Bayou Manchac. We're still expecting it to continue its rise as we move into the at least our first part of the week. And you see right now it's holding in at 4.3 feet. That was of 6 a.m. We're expecting now the flood stage of that area is at 9 feet, but we're expecting as we move toward early on at least late Tuesday night into Wednesday morning 20 feet. And you see that a major flood stage is still below the record of 21.5 feet, but still in that major stage. So therefore, you if you live along the Amy River, not only at Bayou Manchac, but to the north and to Denham Springs and to the south of that, Port Vincent, be prepared for some major flooding along that river. Same story along the Comey River at Joy Road. We're expecting it to rise to about 34.5 feet as we move into Monday and Tuesday. Now, the river rise won't happen today. It's going to be at least on to Sunday night into Monday. We need the rainfall first, and we'll talk more about that here in a bit. Let's get to the latest on what's happening with Hurricane Barry. The winds are at 75 with gusts of 90, and even some reports of gusts I've already seen on the Facebook pages as well as Facebook Live of 85 miles per hour. They're now reporting that to the Morgan City area. It's moving to the northwest at 6 miles per hour now. The pressure is still holding steady at 993 millibars. We don't want that to drop anymore as the storm system is still trying to make its way toward landfall. So at around 7 p.m. you see this line here denoting where it's going to be. It's going to be actually to the west-northwest of Opelousas. And then as you take a look at this time frame, see right here, this is at 7 a.m. on Sunday morning. Now the winds will be down to 45 miles per hour, and this is making its way near the Shreveport, between Shreveport and Ruston. And then beyond that, as we take a look at Monday, at least moving toward Monday and Sunday, actually Sunday night, it's already racing with 35 mile per hour winds into northern central Arkansas. That'll be moving well away from us. So here we go. At least with the other story we're dealing with, not only of course Barry, but it's bringing us the wind from the east now, sustained at 21 miles per hour. We're seeing some gusts higher than that. Temperature of 75 degrees, but we're dealing with some rain showers that are currently moving in. But the wind, that's been another important ingredient across the area. We've seen some power outages, and we see right here of the DOTD cam, this is I-12 and Range Avenue, and you can see the wind just whipping those trees in the distance. There are a few folks that are out on the roadways. Now the 18-wheelers, I can understand that because they're traveling with commerce from to and fro, but folks out locally don't get out on the roadways. And I think a lot of folks, Chad and Carly, are heeding that because a lot of folks are staying home, just stay out because I think a lot of the roadways, actually the restaurants are closed today for a fact because we tried to go somewhere early this morning. So here we go on the Doppler last 18 hours, of course, denoting once again some showers are now working their way into the Baton Rouge area. And there's a report of some wind that we had here, at least reported with some wind damage of around 45 mile per hour wind gusts in the Baton Rouge. And more activity. We're starting to see the oranges now moving in toward US 90, and eventually, Chad and Carly, that's the heavy rainfall that'll be moving in around about noon, extending into the overnight into your Sunday. So everyone get ready for that. Over to you.
All right, Kevin, thank you very much. Really just an hour away from some of those heavy winds and rains approaching our area. We're going to check back in with our Fox 44 NBC Local 33 reporter Kelly Ann Biley, who joins us now, continuing team coverage from GOSEP with the very latest.
Only two of you did that.
Hi, good morning to you, Chad, and everyone else back there in the studio, Kevin as well. We are down here at the Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness, located on Independence Drive here in Baton Rouge. Been here all morning with you. We do have some additional updates for you. Of course, we're on standby a little bit, waiting for that 12:30 Governor's Conference to get that debriefing, and behind the closed doors to my left is actually where people are sitting around a table at this time. The Unified Command Team there, all of the different departments across across the state represented. And I have to tell you, I've seen more traffic come through the front doors today than I have the past 2 days combined. So with me right now, I have Colonel Ed Bush with the Louisiana National Guard. And sir, what can you tell us? What's going on right now?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, really the last 3 days, so many moving pieces and moving parts, trying to really just array the forces into those parishes where we think they can best respond. And this pause and the slowdown in the storm has really allowed us to shore that up. So, you know, we've got over 3,000 troops with their equipment arrayed throughout the state where we can best respond as needed.
And you say 3,000 service people out throughout the state. I think there's 3 different components that we're sort of focused on right now, correct?
No, that's exactly right. We tend to break these things out based on what we think they're going to have to do. First and foremost is search and rescue. So we form search and rescue teams and we put them into those areas where we think they're best going to have to respond. Closely followed by our engineer teams, which can quickly get in there, remove debris, free up motorways, allow those parishes to get to work and try to get life going. And then after that is usually security. If shelters have to stand up and we start moving people to where they need to be, the Guard can be there to help make sure those things stay safe.
And I know real briefly, we've actually got a little bit of a diagram here to sort of show people, if we can, just kind of hold that up real quick and just, we're talking about people that are stationed around the state right now. We're looking at everything pretty much south of I-10, but to see this map certainly puts some confidence in myself. Hopefully it will people at home.
You know, I guess the big takeaway is this is a very concentrated and consolidated effort. It's thought through. So if you've got 3,000 forces and we approach it as an array, you know, really, so as we look at the state, and we can kind of hold it up real quick, if you can get it, that's just kind of a quick example of how we track it and how we break it down. We team those engineers and those resources and those aviation assets, all those people with the